Our speaker is one of our own, Chad Zepernick, stylishly attired, I might say. He definitely looks employed, does he not? Chad it takes imagination and makes it happen. That is the lead-off sentence on his LinkedIn summary. He has driven projects to create new technologies like microchips, lithium-ion batteries, manufacturing material handling devices, and 100% electric-powered vehicles. Developing new global business processes and performing business process improvement is also a passion of his, since he excels at formulating paths in previously uncharted territory, much like Star Trek. Additionally, Chad has experience starting up his own company with former coworkers as a change management consultant in the banking software industry. Let me proudly present employed Chad Zepernick.
Thanks, Kathy. As Kathy mentioned, I'm Chad Zepernick, and I take imagination and I make it happen. And I've done that as a project manager and as a process development engineer, and I've done it in the industries that she mentioned of technology development, battery development, 100% electric power vehicles, and and I really like it. Now, I've spent about 4.5 months sitting basically in the same seats that you guys are sitting now, listening to different speakers. And when I got the offer, I thought, okay, well, I'd like to give back and just tell everybody how I did it. But I've thought about the different presenters that I've seen in the past, and I thought, okay, what's something that I really haven't seen people present on? I've definitely learned something from every presenter that I've seen come here, and I've taken something away from it. But one thing that I haven't seen is I haven't seen somebody use actual hard numbers of here's how many people I contacted and all that, so I'll get into that in a little bit. I also don't think I've seen a speaker kind of do a large overview of here's all the steps in the process. And doing process development, I figure, hey, that's a good thing to do. So number one is know your box. And I don't know if any of you guys know that idiom. I know I've heard it a bunch of times. I don't know if you know what that actually means, because it's a weird idiom. It's a weird saying. So know your box is basically, what is your box? Your box is, what is it, the service that you provide? What are your skills and talents that you are selling to a future potential employer? And why is it something that they would need, something that they would want, and what is it that you're providing? So if you're not clear on what you are providing, on what kind of need that you can actually fulfill, a need that they might have or a desire that they have, then it's not really going to land when you're talking to people about, what is it that you're looking for? Okay. And so number one is know your box. Number two is advertise. Get out there, tell people, this is what I provide, this is what I do. Target your resume. So don't just, one of the things that I benefited from is being able to put specific resumes for specific jobs. That way when I put it forward, it looks like this person is the person that we need for this job because he's the perfect fit. Network. I know that you've heard a lot about networking, and I'm going to actually put some hard numbers behind this to kind of back up the importance of networking. Preparing for the interview. So when you're networking, hopefully you're networking to get an interview. That's why you're putting the resume together, and you want to be able to be prepared when you go into that interview so you can nail it. Accept rejection. We feel a lot of that in this process while we're unemployed. So you just got to deal with that. And when you're working with the potential new employer, negotiate. Negotiate for a good salary. Negotiate for a good deal. And bam, get hired. But all throughout the process, there are some things that you need to keep in mind. You got to improve your morale. This whole thing can be demoralizing. It's hard sometimes to get rejected. It's not a fun thing to do. But it's something you got to make sure that you improve your morale. Also is improve your presence. Improve your presence online, improve your presence in person. And so this is what I see basically as the process that you have for getting employed and getting your great new job. And if I could just go through these steps, anybody can go through these steps and get your great new job. And so the first one that I'm going to talk about because it's the most important, I'm not going to go chronologically. First one I'm going to talk about is networking, because it's the most important. So networking, I'm gonna ask you guys what you think. How many times did I contact my new employer before I got an offer? And when I say contact, I mean any kind of contact. I mean like in person, phone, email, connecting with somebody on LinkedIn, sending them a message on LinkedIn. What do you guys think? How many contacts or how many like touches do you think that I had before I got my offer? From the time that I got my first contact till I got my offer. What do you guys think?
25.
20.
I'm hearing a lot of numbers. What I did is I did 50. It was 50 contacts from the first time that I talked to somebody to the time I got the offer. Now, when I was doing it, I didn't have that as a plan. That was my plan. But as I look back at the statistics, that's just what it was. And the time I was just like thinking about who's the next person I can talk to. I wasn't thinking about, I need to make 50 contacts. It was just, who's the next person I can talk to? What is it that I can say to them? What is it that I can say that can bring value? So how much time between my first contact to the company and when I got my offer? So sometimes you see some people come in here and they come in, they're sitting there, and like the next week they're gone. They're like, whoa. Man, that person was amazing. Like they're just, how did they do that? And you start to ask yourself, we're like, well, are they better than me? Is that what's happening? And I'm going to say, no, they're not better than you. You know, I don't know you, I don't know them, maybe they are, I don't know. But what it is that they just might be better at contacting people and networking and making that connection and making it clear what they're looking for. So it took me 87 days. And it's 87 days over Thanksgiving and Christmas. So people are asking me, Chad, what's going on with GM? Have you heard back from them? No. I mean, I'm still contacting them, still talking to them. But like, you feel these 87 days. Like now that I have an offer, I'm like, awesome, I got an offer. But like when you're in it, it's not easy. So how many days between contacts? Well, just kind of doing the math here is I did 1.74 days per contact. So that's how much time in between each contact I did when I break down the numbers. So if I exclude weekends, that's about 6.2 contacts per week that I did. Now, that may sound like a lot. So was I contacting the same person like 6 times a week? Can I get a job? Can I get a job? Can I get a job? No, that's not what it is. I contacted 17 different people. And when I contacted them, I'm not saying, you know, give me a job. I'm saying different things where Gary O'Neill had some good things to say about like, hey, I saw this thing in the news. I saw that you guys came out with a new technology. Congratulations on that. By the way, I don't know where you're at. If you know where I'm at in the process, it would be great to hear, but I saw this technology development. I'd like to let you know I saw that and I thought that's great. So there's one person that I contacted 11 times, and some I needed only to contact once. But on average, I contacted 2.9 times per person. So sending somebody a message about 3 times, that's not terrible. So this is really what I did. Now this is from the time that I was first interested in the company to the time I got the offer. So that's what all these numbers are. And I was like, I don't think I've ever seen anybody present on actual numbers. I thought that might be helpful. So how many of these contacts were in person? So I did 6 of them in person. So that's 12% of my contacts were actual face-to-face, getting out of my pajamas, putting on some professional clothes, and like going to see somebody and like getting out of the house and like getting myself presented. Does that mean that I never sent like emails just in my pajamas? No, of course. Like there are times I was like in my bed, half asleep with a pillow and like sending a LinkedIn message or whatever. But there are times where you just got to get out there. You just got to meet people.
Does this include interviews?
It does include interviews, yes. So 3 of those are interviews, yeah. So maximize the value of your contacts. So there are some contacts that were like key contacts. These are like my people like inside the business. So 21 of my 50 contacts were with 2 people. So one of them was a personal friend, and just because I was talking about GM, he said, you know what, I just got a job there. I was like, I didn't even know. And so I was talking to him about it, and so he kind of became an inside person, and sometimes he'd bring it up with me and be like, hey, what's going on with GM? I want to know. And then if he's like doing that in email or in person and I'm responding, I mean, that's a contact. We were talking about the job. And so some of it happens naturally. Now, the other person was a friend of a friend of a friend of mine. And I just basically networked in order to get together with them, and I met with them in person and talked about things about the company. And I just kind of asked them about, hey, listen, how is this? Is it going to be better for you to present my resume? Is it better for me to put it in and for like you to talk to them? Like, what's the best path? And all of a sudden, they become invested in the process with you. So they kind of become your ally, and they're interested, and they want to know a lot of times. And sometimes they're asking you, hey, what's happened? Because they're invested. They're a part of the process. So after your networking, you got to be able to prepare for the interview so that when you get it, you can nail it. So Kathy has got some awesome interview skills classes. She's good at, being able to grill you but in like a safe environment, in a place where, you know what, it's okay if you fail because you're there to learn. And you're there to figure out what are my blind spots. And Kathy's really great at that. When I went there, there was another guy that was there. He was very technical, and he would ask me certain questions where I started to get nervous. Every time it was his turn to like ask me a question, I was like, oh my gosh, what is this guy gonna ask me this time? But I tried not to let it show. Get the smile on my face. And so then, so afterwards, like he asked me really great questions. So afterwards I said, listen, can you and I get together and practice some interviews one-on-one? Because, Kathy's class is great, but it happens once a week. Like, what happens if your interview is like halfway through that week and it's like, oh no, it's not time for Kathy's class yet. So I definitely recommending like go ahead and like connect with people, network with them, meet with them outside to practice. And that way you can actually practice multiple times a week if you feel like you need it or if you're nervous about an upcoming interview. And then it's also important to develop questions for your interview. So when I did my first phone interview with the hiring manager, potential hiring manager, they weren't sure which manager I was actually going to go to. So my first phone interview with a potential hiring manager, I don't know that I actually answered every question that they asked me like great. It wasn't bad, but I don't know that it was great. But I think I really stood out in the fact that I asked questions that were like good, meaty questions that they knew that I was serious about the job and they knew that I could do the job from the questions that I asked. So how do I go about making these questions? What is this? So, first question. So how many questions do you think that I had ready for the interview before I went? What do you guys think? 38. I had 38 questions ready to go. All right, I'm ready. 38 questions. Okay. So of those 38 questions, first, before I get into the details of the 38 questions, what was her name? Olivia? Was that it? What?
Alethea.
Alethea, sorry. So as Alethea said, follow any instructions that they give you. So I was sitting there in my face-to-face interview, and they said to me, they're asking me these questions, and they gave me like a 5-step formula for like how to answer the question and make sure you hit all those. And so I had them like written down on my notes on the right-hand side. And so I glanced down to make sure I went like line by line, like answered each part of the question. And my interviewer said, this is great. You're like answering my questions so I can easily fill out the form. This is fantastic. Great job. And I was like, well, I got an email that said that that's what I'm supposed to do. So, doesn't everybody do that? No! So if you simply follow the instructions, you will stand out above those other people, and you don't want to be those other people. Oh, I didn't know that was like clap-worthy. All right. Following the instructions that they give you. Also, know who, if you know who is interviewing you, so I feel lucky in the fact that they did tell me, like, oh, you're going to be interviewed by this person. So I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, so I looked them up on LinkedIn, and I saw, like, all of this like company jargon, and I was able to figure out, oh, well, it looks like they kind of do this. And so I was able to study a couple other things. I'm like, I don't know what that acronym means. Let me look it up. GM, space, whatever that thing is. Oh, okay. So kind of looked at all of that. And so I was more prepared then for the interview when it came up. And then I was also like, well, do I know anybody that knows him? So I went on Facebook. I put in his name on Facebook, and I was like, oh my gosh, we have a mutual friend. So I texted him, the mutual friend. I was like, hey, do you have a second to like talk on the phone? And she said, sure. I called her up, and she's like, yeah, that used to be my boss. I was like, really? What can you tell me about him? And so she told me stuff about like his wife, and he just went to Hawaii. And I'm like, I don't know that this is helpful. But you know what it was? Like, I don't know that she specifically gave me anything in that, but what she did give me is she gave me information so that when it came up, like, I actually felt more comfortable because I knew if there was a lull in the conversation, I could say, you know what, in the summer, I went to my friend's wedding in Hawaii. It was a great opportunity. And then he could be like, I just came back from Hawaii. So I knew I had that in my back pocket. So yeah, it just made me feel better that it was like that. And then there's actually a ton of videos on YouTube that tells you some great practices on interviewing that you can just go up and YouTube, and like if you click on that, a lot of times a string of them will just keep flowing. And so there were times like right before my phone interview that I was just having that in the back as I'm like making my lunch, having that play in the background. And then so one of the good channels that I found is the Interview Guys, and so that's where I got like, they had like a top 5 questions to ask in the interview. So that was like 13% of my questions came from. So 26% was, how does this job actually work? Like, what are the mechanics of this job itself? And so like, for the example that I gave was, I was like, well, as a project manager, how much of this job is, you know, a board deciding this many resources is allocated to this project and this percentage of their time, they're supposed to be working on this? Or is it, do I need to be the one to go out and like gather the people and be like, hey, you're working on this. Hey, you're doing that. You got to do this. And just kind of using my own influence to do it. Like, what's that trade-off? Because I've been in environments where sometimes it's just like, no, you do it this way and you do not deviate. Or sometimes you got to like get the resources yourself. So I'm like, what kind of place is this? And so also ask questions about the work environment. So that's something you don't know. You probably haven't worked there before. If you have, you will have less of these questions. But if you haven't, then that's why it's 46%. So one of the questions that I asked, and I just picked a random question to put up here, which is, you know, what is the current utilization rate of the developers? So they're doing a lot of software development. How burdened are they right now? And that does make a difference in the environment. And also, you want to be able to ask questions that like make you seem like you're going to be a superhero, that you're going to be a rock star, that you're going to be like kicking butt, taking names. And so one of the things that I asked is like, if I identify a project myself, like I'm working on stuff and I say, you know what, there's an opportunity here. This is something that you can do to improve your business. If I identify that, how do you make that happen? Now, they didn't really give me an awesome answer on it because I had to like reflect back to them what I thought they said because they kind of danced around that question. So I said, well, what I'm hearing is I need to convince the business unit that it's their best interest and then they sponsor the project. And then he said, yes. So sometimes you have to clarify some of their answers. And then the rest of it is, how will you be measured? How is it that you'll be measured? So I was asking, are there clear measurable goals for my role? And if so, what are they? And is there a measurement of my goals that's kind of the least clear? And what is that? Because this tells you like what does the company value and how do they measure what they value? And those are important things to know. But these are just some random examples. So going backwards in the process to the beginning, that is know your box. So knowing your box, like I said, what does that mean? That means what is it that you are saying to employers that you offer that they will be willing to pay money for to keep you on their staff to do? So what is that you offer that they would value? So knowing your box, first, you also want to know like where is it that you want to work? I mean, do you want to work for a multinational corporation? Do you want to work for like a mom and pop shop? Do you want to work for a place that really values integrity? Do you really want to work for like a clean energy company? Are there places that you don't want to work? There are some people that love Chick-fil-A. There's some people that hate Chick-fil-A. So these are all things that you got to like take into consideration, especially when you're figuring out your box. So what do you want to do? And so, yeah, there's different occupations there. So what is it that's your skill set? What is it that's, what is it that's your box? So if you know that you are like the best, most awesomest accountant, that's awesome. It's super easy for you. But what if you don't know? So I remember when I was laid off back in like 2006, I came to Launchpad Job Club, and they gave me a lot of help back then. But it was one of those things where like, I was like, you know what? I got laid off, but I had a lot of different jobs and responsibilities. I could do anything. Like I did variance analysis. I was an industrial engineer. I was a quality control engineer. I was a safety engineer. I was an ergonomic engineer. I could do anything, and I could work for anybody. Ta-da! But that's really confusing for employers. They don't know what to do with you. That is not helpful. You think, like, if you kind of leave it vague or general, that it's like, oh yeah, you can do whatever. But it just makes no sense to people. And so you have to figure out, like, how do you condense together, like, this is my box, this is what I want to do, this is the service that I want to provide, and I can do it for you, and I want to do it for these type of people. Like, that's super clear, and it makes sense to people, and they can do something with it. So what if you still don't know? I mean, I've been doing, Round Rock has this Hired Texas Job Club, and they have one that's like a branding analysis class, and so that's really cool. It has you like take different tests to figure out, well, what is it that would be a good fit for me? What kind of companies would be a good fit for me? What is like my personality in all these different categories or job skills, and it has you take tests to help you analyze. So yeah, that's neat. And also create your elevator pitch. So this is an elevator with Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. Some of you know who they are from movies. And then one of the things that I saw this picture as I was looking for this, and I was like, that is awesome, because I've seen Return of the Jedi, and Luke does an amazing job of saying, like, because like, first we see him as like a farm boy in the first Star Wars movie, and then like you see him in Return of the Jedi, and he's like, I am a Jedi, like my father was before me. And you're just like, dang, I know what he is up to. And not only that, he like comes in with his lightsaber, which is like proof of his like Jedi work of creating a lightsaber. So it's like his box is super clear. I got it, man. You're a Jedi, and you're trying to like convert me, a Sith Lord, Darth Vader, aka Dad. And like you're trying to convert me back to the light side. I know what you're up to. I know who you are. It's super clear. So yeah, I was like, man, Jedi, that was good, yeah. All right, so advertise. Now this one was difficult for me. So this one is probably the most difficult for me, and part of the reason is like, so I'm not married, I'm a single guy. I would like to be married someday, and it is not cool to be a single guy that is unemployed. Not cool. So this is like going around and advertising that like, I am not cool, look at me and how not cool I am. But, I know, right? So, number one, you just gotta swallow your pride and like, just get it out there. You just gotta say, listen, here's what I do, here's what I'm looking for, here's the place where I'd like to work, and just suck it up. And it's hard. I don't know, is there anybody that's like married that has a different experience? That's my personal experience. I don't know what it's like on the married side. Does anybody have?
On the married side too.
Yeah, so what is it on the married side that's kind of the sticking point? I know like for me, it messes with my availability.
You've got the husband that wants to know what you're doing all day long.
Oh, so you got the pressure of like, what did you do with your day? Really? Is that what you did with your day?
Yeah. It's bad. It's bad because, you're supposed to be looking for a job, and then he comes home and he wants to know why the house isn't spotless or everything's done because,
He wants to know,
you've been home all day
why
long,
is the laundry not done and you've been home all day?
and then you trying to explain, well, I'm not supposed to be doing any of that sort of stuff until after 5, like if I had a real job.
Right. Yeah, you gotta focus on your job search during the day. That's why dinner's not ready right at the moment you walk in.
And why aren't you working yet?
And why aren't you working
Yeah.
yet? Yeah. You had something?
I just said there was a shame and guilt. I'm not married, but I'm
Okay.
thinking he lives with me. He's paying all the bills pretty much.
Okay. So shame and guilt. Those are downsides, definitely. The other thing is like, stay positive. Because it's easy to go down like the dark tunnel as like, especially like if you're getting rejected. Like I remember like I got a call back from this one company and they said, we decided to go a different direction, which is nice if I reject you. So they decided to go a different direction. And I just called up somebody that I was friends with, that I was coworkers with. And I was like, hey, can we just meet up? I just like to meet. Because like sometimes you need a reminder of your own value. Just because sometimes you forget in the moment where like you get your hopes up about a certain job and you don't get it. Yes. Lisa was like, wah. Yeah. Sometimes you feel that way, true. And don't beg for a job. So maybe this doesn't need to be said, but I feel like it does. Because, so I talked to a friend of mine, and I told her the whole situation about begging for a job. Sorry. Strike that. Okay, I told her the situation of me looking for new opportunities. So I told her about that and kind of what I was looking for, and I said my little box of like, I do program management and process development, and I'm looking for, these technology areas. And but as I was saying that, there's nothing she can do to help me. It's not like she has a job. She had a friend there that was with her, and her friend couldn't do anything about it, but her friend said to me, oh, well, there's this company, GM, they're looking for people. And I was like, oh, I didn't even realize they were here in Austin. Okay, yeah, I'll look into that. But she couldn't do anything to get me a job, so she's like, well, I have a friend that works there. Would you like me to connect you with her? So I was like, sure. So I connected with her, and she was the friend of a friend of a friend of mine that was my inside person at GM. Boom. But you know what? Even that friend of a friend of a friend of mine, she couldn't do anything to get me a job. It doesn't do any good to be like, please, I need a job. It's just going that next step and saying, this is what I'm interested in, and I would like to talk to you more about GM, is what I said to her. I said, I'd just like to talk to you about it. What is it like to work there? I'd just like to meet up to really get your take on the inside of the company and what it's like. And then use your elevator pitch. So, I'm a Jedi like my father was before me. Okay. So, yeah. So target your resume. So this one, I had a resume that was good, and I didn't go to the Workforce Solutions resume class. I should have. I probably would have had a better resume. I didn't this time. I'm just telling you facts. But I feel like I probably would have done a little bit better or maybe speed or something if I had it tweaked a little bit more. But it was good. It was all right. Nothing to write home about, but yeah. But Workforce Solutions, they have some great classes to help you out with that. What I did do is I did use this thing. I was networking. This one person told me about jobscan.co. Now, I just want to warn you, I'm not getting any kickbacks or whatever, but it is a paid site. You get free scans for free, 5 scans for free. And what it is basically in the left-hand side, you put in your resume, and on the right-hand side, you put in the job posting, and you click scan, and it compares. And it tells you what you're matching on. So as you can see up there, I tried to match even the numbers of how many times each thing was in my resume. And there's still some that I have missing. So if you have one missing, it says missing. So there's little tags on the job posting for Facebook and Twitter and all that. And I was like, okay, I don't need to do that. That's fine. So it'll actually give you a report, and it gives you a little percentage at the top of it of this is how much your resume matches this job posting. So I think it's an awesome tool. I did pay for it. I don't get kickbacks. And whether it's worth it or not for you, that's up to you to decide. So I created unique resumes for each job that I posted. There were like a few that I could probably use for like one or two, but not many. It was mostly like one resume per job posted, per job posting that was targeted like this, like word for word targeted. So I basically took my resume and repopulated it with some of these words. And so how many unique job resumes do you think I had at the time where I got my offer? 120. What did you? 120 is what I heard. It wasn't 120, but it was 47. 47 resumes that I had out there. Yes, Ken?
So these were unique resumes for different companies. So you tailored each one. What type of success rate were you getting back? Were you getting a lot of job offers or invitations to come in for interviews?
No, I wasn't getting a lot. No,
So
no.
even tailoring them is still just a big chance whether somebody's going to get your name out of that.
I mean, I believe that the targeted resumes helped me get the interviews that I did get. But, I mean, I applied for a bunch of, I didn't get 47 interviews. That is not what I got, yeah.
Like 47 from scratch or like just tweaking and?
Most of it was tweaking. There were like one or two jobs that people like referred to me and I was like, oh, this one is significantly different. And so some of those I had to do scratch-ish or like use resumes like as a base that I had from like years ago. And like, that resume from like 5 years ago is actually closer to what this is looking for. So yep. And then obviously apply. So one of the things that I noticed from things that recruiters told me, from my personal experience was like the sooner you can apply to a job when it's actually posted, the more likely it is that you're going to get a response. That's something recruiters actually told me. That's something that I experienced when I was like submitting something a couple of days after versus like a couple of weeks after. And what recruiters had told me is that like if you're submitting something like 2 weeks after it's posted, they may already have a pile of like literally 200 resumes sitting there, and you're just another resume on top of that pile. So the sooner that you can get it in, the better chance that you have to get some kind of contact out of that. Now, of course, networking, as I talked about, helps push your resume forward if you're really excited about this old posting. I'm not saying if something's posted old, do not apply for it. What I'm saying is it's better the sooner that you apply.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
So are you saying that the resumes you think that they're trying to convey, that the resumes they receive first will be the first ones they get?
Well, it just happens. Like they're sitting there, they're a recruiter, they're sitting there at their computer, and they get 10 in the first week. Maybe on a Friday, I don't know when, I don't work there. Maybe on a Friday they open it up, they're like, oh, we got 10. They can read 10. Maybe the next week they get 50. Oh, it's harder to go through 50. Then, they don't go through all 50 in the second week, so the third week they get 100 more. Oh, well, the more it goes, like the more it kind of snowballs into like, I can't read all these. Or we found someone. Or
They like to want someone in the first 10.
yeah. Or they just leave it in the computer to have like an algorithm figure out which one's the best, and that's where this comes in. Like this one is really for like companies that have algorithms that sort like who's our top candidate. They use this software. Well, not this one specifically. Maybe not. I don't know. But they use this type of software to say, hey, who's our top candidates? Because they don't have time to read through 100, 150 resumes. Honestly, I don't remember. I was just like, I got to do this. And so it was like a year membership. I don't remember how much it was, but yeah. But my father's looking too, and I was like, well, you can use mine. Oh, wait, am I allowed to say that? I don't know. Maybe not.
As long as you write down it for all of us.
Yeah. So how many jobs did I apply to at the company that I got hired with, which is GM? So I applied to 9 different positions. So 2 of them, I got rejected immediately. They're like, no, you're not good enough for this job. That's not how they wrote it, but it's much nicer. So 22% I was rejected automatically. So 2 of the positions, how many of the applications did I get interest from the company? That was 2. I actually got interest on 2 different opportunities. And so what does that mean? So sometimes you don't always look at the silver lining. So I'm like, I got rejected 78% of the time. And this is for a company that gave me an offer. This is not including the companies that did not give me an offer. So that's why the next step that I have in the process is accept rejection, because it is a part of the process. Like, you got to deal with it, otherwise it will make you crazy or depressed or crazy depressed. So I also put in positions for Dell. So for Dell, I had 10 contacts. Different times I communicate with them via email, in person, LinkedIn, etc. So that's how many contacts I had with them. So how much time between my first contact with Dell to the time I got the offer with GM, because when I got the offer with GM, I was like, I don't need to deal with you anymore. So it was 51 days. So that's about 5.1 days in between each contact. And if you exclude weekends, then you're talking about like 1.4 contacts per week. And so did I just bug one person about 1.4 times a week? No. I had 5 people that I was talking to. And so one person I contacted 3 times, and some I only contacted once, and it was about two contacts per person that I had at Dell. And how many jobs did I apply for? It was 6 different positions. And how many of the applications did the system reject of mine? So this is like automatically they're just like, no, you don't get this one. So that was 2 positions. So it was a third of them. A third of the ones I applied for at Dell, they were automatically like, no way, forget it. And so how many of the applications did I get in terms of interest? Yes.
Over at GM, did they offer bonuses for the person that referred you, and did you follow up with that somewhere on the form that says, hey, did I contact the company? Did you use that?
Honestly, I don't know what happened with that part. I don't think anything happened with that. I mean,
That wasn't on the application, because most of the times it'll say.
I didn't see it on that. I didn't see that. Yeah. So I don't know. So how many of the applications did I get interest from the company? That was 0. 0 applications. Yeah.
How quickly did you get a no rejection once you applied?
I don't remember. Maybe like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I must have triggered some kind of like we reject you thing when I was filling out the application. So it wasn't super long for those. Like, I think there were some questions that I didn't answer according to how they wanted me to answer, and so they just said, you don't get this. Yeah. Yeah. And so what does that mean? So for Dell, 100% no interest expressed. 100. It's all right, I got a job. Whatever. So how many times did I contact? So there was another company, it was a smaller company that I contacted. And so I had 8 contacts with them. And how much time between the first contact and when I got declined for that role? That was 27 days. 27 days, so about a month. I was like, ah. And then how many days between each contact? So it was 3.375, which excluding weekends, it's about 2 per week. And did I just bug the same person twice, once a week? No. So there were 2 people I was talking to at that company. Now, it's different because that company was a much smaller company. It was Rapid7, and so they're not as big. Yeah?
Quick question.
Sure.
So when you're thinking about bugging the people, how did you contact them? Because a lot of jobs will say, please no phone calls about this posting, or please no blah, blah, blah. So what did you ignore that? Or did you just never see that and you just kind of went, okay, I'm going to call them, I'm going to email them?
So for Rapid7, that's a good question. For Rapid7, I went on LinkedIn, and I said, who do I know that's at Rapid7? And LinkedIn said no one. But it said, but you know this person that knows this person. So I said, great. So I said, hey, my friend, can you introduce me to this other person? I saw some really great information on Glassdoor.com about this company, and I was interested to know if like your friend would be willing to talk to me to see what it's like to work there. And so,
Other people who kind of got
Yeah. So always find your in person. Like, who is it that's in the organization? Because I'm not going through official channels that way. I'm just going through my friends or my friends' friends or my friends' friends' friends, something like that. So that's why I was like, networking is important. It's number one. And so it's not, so I think some people network to like see job opportunities, but like you really want to leverage networking to decrease the amount of time that you're unemployed and to get yourself noticed when you're in that stack of piles waiting to hear back. So like just sitting there like, okay, I hope I hear back from them. Like that's not really gonna help, but after you apply, like you wanna figure out who is connected to that job, who is it that's at that company, who can I talk to, who can move this thing forward? Because at GM, I had 2 people on the inside, like they were great. They were like contacting HR internally. And oh yeah, I asked them, I said, listen, would it be possible for you to like could you figure out who the hiring manager is? And they were just like, no, that's not cool. So I was like, all right, well, I've just figured I'd ask. And I was just like, hey, well, I don't know who the HR person is. Can you at least tell me like the HR person's contact number? And from both of them, they're like, they don't want us to give you their number. So I said, all right, well, thank you. Bam, each of those are contacts. Woo! All right. So one person I contacted 5 times at this one company on average. And, but like on average it was 4. Now, one of the things that was really cool about this rejection, I guess, one of the things that was cool about it is that like a couple weeks later, I get a LinkedIn message because my contact stopped replying to me. Yeah, it happens. It happens. That's why you just got to accept rejection. You just got to accept it. It's going to happen. So he could stop replying to me, but afterwards, like 3 weeks later, he sent me a message. He said, I just want to let you know they went with an internal candidate. So I'm like, oh, you know what? Maybe these stats don't even matter. Maybe this position was never real. Like maybe it was just that they had an internal person and they have to like hire some external people. I have to interview external people and like just kind of go through the motions in order to like move our person forward. So like you don't always get to know that information. So I feel like, oh, that was awesome that I was like privileged to be able to get that. That's great. I said thank you. I sent them a message back. Thank you very much for letting me know. No response. It's fine. So yes, networking is important. I said that in the beginning, and I'll say it again. And this is a great opportune time to go back into networking because once you go through like the whole accept rejection and all that, you can look back and see like, okay, how effective was my networking once I ended the process? A little lessons learned, a little root cause analysis on the back end. So networking stats for the job, I got the offer, so that's GM. There's 50 contacts, 6.2 contacts per week, 17 people, 6 contacts per person, 2.9 contacts per person. 6 contacts in person, 2.9 contacts per person, and 9 positions. Now, when I compare that to Dell, so that was 10 contacts, 1.4 contacts per week, 5 people, 4 in-person contacts, 2 contacts per person, and 6 different positions. So when we do a little like, what is the delta? What is the difference here? So I have a little delta. And so I have like 50 contacts versus 10. That's 4 times the amount, 40 contacts difference. So I didn't get the job when I only contacted Dell 10 times for those 6 positions. I did get the job when I contacted GM with 50 contacts for 9 positions. Now, precisely how many contacts does it take to get a job? I don't know. If you want to do that experiment and see exactly how many it is, that's fine. I encourage you. But I can tell you that 50 contacts, and I did get it. 10 contacts, and I didn't get it. I think I hit the wrong button. So the contacts per week, that one was even a greater factor, 4.4 times. 17 people versus 5 people, 3.4. And then the rest of these are approximately 1.5 each as far as the difference. So you can clearly see from the numbers, I put in a lot more effort, and I got results for that effort. And what's that? That one is the highest factor difference, 4.4. It beats all the other numbers. You can see it right there. So it's all numbers. And so that contacts per week, that was the number one thing that made a difference. Well, at least according to these numbers. And so sometimes sometimes you just need to go over the hard numbers instead of the subjective. Now going back to the subjective, I feel like I wouldn't be able to make that 6.2 contacts per week if I didn't have 17 people. So I feel like that the number of people that you're contacting, that's a real driver because it's easier to like have that many contacts when you're contacting more people. So let me give you an example about these 17 people. So I got an email from somebody at GM, and all of a sudden I was looking in the CC, and I saw a couple of people. I saw some people that I recognized, but I saw one name I did not recognize. So I said, that's interesting. So I clicked forward. I copied that email I did not recognize. I put it in the top, and I said, hi, my name is Chad Zepernick. I saw your email on the CC, and I want to thank you very much for being a part of the process of me interviewing at GM. I'm very excited about the role. And can you tell me what you do at GM? I'm not really sure. Thank you very much for whatever role you play, Chad Zepernick. So I get an email back. Yes. So I get an email back. Oh, hi, Chad. I'm an HR manager. And thank you very much. So I was like, oh, thank you very much for your response. You know, I'm excited to have this job. I'm like, another contact, yes. And the thing is, it's not just the fact that it's another contact, because I had made an impression there. How many people do you think emailed that HR manager just because they were in a CC of an email that somebody got? 0? One other? Nah, 0. And so, like, the more impressions that you can kind of make, like, I think it says a lot. Like, because I wanted it to be like, now, I'm not saying this happened, but I wanted to be like, oh, man. Even from, like, my contacts inside the company. So I had 2 contacts inside the company kind of pushing my resume. And so it's just kind of like, you know, I wanted the impression to be like, do you keep hearing about this Chad guy too? Yeah, keep hearing from all these different directions. In fact, somebody told me he sent an email to the HR manager and he didn't even know her. Wow. That's what I was hoping happened. I don't know if that actually happened. Probably not, but it happened up here. All right, so comparing to the other job that I interviewed for but I didn't get, so that was 8 contacts, but it was a smaller company. 2 contacts per week, 2 different people were my contacts, 0 in person, none in person. But I did get a call and I did get an interview on the phone. 4 contacts per person. And 1 position I applied for. But, you know, it was a smaller company. Delta. What's the delta? Okay, so we got 6.25 times the amount of contacts. That's undefined because you're dividing by 0 in case. So I'm throwing out the 9 positions. I'm saying that's an outlier because there's a specific cause. So you can throw that out according to Deming's model. There's a specific cause because it's a small company. They don't have like hundreds of positions like Dell. So I'm throwing that number out. So excluding that number, it's clear 8.5 times the amount of people I contacted there. So I figured I'd put some hard numbers on it. Okay, now negotiating. Now I don't know that I did this part the best. I talked to Kathy about it, and she thinks I did fine. And I did fine. But I felt like I left some money on the table. And like, you never want to like leave money on the table. So I felt like there was some of it, and they definitely pushed back, and I was like, all right, you know what? They gave me a good offer. I'm gonna go with it. But if you take and negotiating salary is an important part of the process. And so you want to be able to make sure that you can do that part of the skill. Now, some of what I did is I looked down on Glassdoor.com to see like, okay, well, what are the ranges for the salaries of like what I'm looking for? And you can even look like company specific. You can look for area specific. So there's a lot of information that you can have in your back pocket. Now, you never want to give you a number, but they do try and pin you down. They're always trying to pin you down. So yeah, that's tough. It's a difficult situation. But aside from salary, you can negotiate vacation time. You can negotiate the company paying for like a cell phone for you so you don't have to do that. You can negotiate a company car. Hopefully it's not an Oscar Mayer Wiener. But like you can still like negotiate for that, you know. If you want it, I mean, hey, that's fine. But like, I would recommend going to Kathy's class. I went like years ago, and it was awesome. And I basically used like in my dealing with them, I used what I learned from her years ago. I probably should have done an update more recently, but I went this Wednesday. It was awesome. I liked it. So she's great. And yeah, so also improve your presence. So one of the things that I kind of mentioned, I don't remember if it was like last week or 2 weeks ago, but what I mentioned was doing like a LinkedIn class. So they have a LinkedIn class at Higher Texas in Round Rock. And it was awesome. So that's where I was like telling somebody there, like, this is what I do. And yeah, so it's up in Round Rock. So this is what I do, and this is the type of people that I do it for. And that's where they really helped me like craft down like all the complicated things I was saying to something simple. Like, I can take imagination and make it happen. And after I read it, I was like, whoa, that's what I do, but that sounds awesome. So yeah, they can really work with you and help like massage like what it is that you do, your box, and really bring it and make it something that's snappy and catchy. So if somebody is doing what I did and like stalking you on LinkedIn, like employers, because they will probably want to like figure out like, who is this person? Like, as I was going through this process, there were lots of people that were like hidden that are looking at my profile. Maybe it was some of you, I don't know. But like, I'm thinking there are employers that are like looking at me, like seeing like, what is this guy? What is he about? And so the other thing is improve your personal presence. So Eleanor was great the last 2 weeks talking about that stuff. And so if you want to contact her, if you're new, like you didn't get any of that, like you missed it, like there's her like email up there. She has great stuff. She approved of my outfit today, so awesome. The other thing is you got to improve your morale. Like I said, like this can be depressing. Oh my gosh. So it can be totally depressing. So you got to do things to make yourself feel good. So like one of the things that I mentioned was like when I got rejected for that job at the smaller company, I called up some of the people that I used to work with that I did consulting with, and I just kind of wanted to like sit with them. And because they always have encouraging things to say and they know the value that I bring to work, and sometimes you forget that when you get rejected. The other thing is like exercise. Exercise is really good for boosting endorphins and all that. Like personally, I love to dance. So I like dancing a lot. There's me dancing. So one of the things like, so how often do you think I go dancing to keep my morale? What?
Twice a week.
Sorry?
Twice a week.
Twice a week? Anyone else?
3 times.
3 times a week? Not every day. Not every day. I would wish, but no, it's on average it's about 3.5 days a week. So about every other day I go. So yeah, I mean, I love it because it's a skill, it's practicing, it helps keep me fit, and it's awesome. The other thing is be social. So Kathy had mentioned like there's the stuff to do calendar, there's no excuse. You could go back there and like pick it up and say, here's what I'm gonna do, there's some fun stuff. And social is also dancing. I like doing that. So I like to be efficient with my time so I get my exercise and my socializing in simultaneously. So do some efficiency work too. So yeah, do something interesting. So I went and, I like to do karaoke. I do that, and I do some fun stuff like that too. And also, like go to a concert. When I went to the concert, that is when I talked to my friend who was there with some girl I didn't know, the friend of a friend, and she was the one when I went and I gave my elevator pitch, and I was positive and said, this is what I'm looking for, and was clear about it. She said, you know what? How about GM? And I know somebody that works there. So go out, go to a concert, have fun. Did you have something, Kathy? Or?
No, I just thought that was interesting.
Uh-huh.
When you meet people, if it's comfortable to clearly say, this
Right.
is what I do. I'm surprised with your automotive background that you didn't make the GM connection, that somebody else had to see
Well,
it.
I just didn't know it was here in Austin. I was busy with like my nose on the grindstone trying to like build vehicles and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah. I'm Chad Zepernick.